Sunday, February 26th. How is everybody? It's 8:15. I just woke up to the worst news. Bill Paxton has passed away, and he was an amazing friend of mine, and I still can't believe it. I was worried because off the mic, I had interviewed him a few weeks ago, and off the mic, he had told me about this surgery he was going to have, and I could tell he was worried, and I mean anybody is that goes in for a surgery, so it was obvious, but he seemed pretty pretty concerned, and I just can't believe it, man. God, it's just. I met him. I think around in 2002, and we had so many laughs together, and growing up on all his movies and everything, and then finally meeting him and hanging out with him, and he was just an electric person, man, and his brain was just the knowledge he had, and just the love of what he did, and God, he was just so amazing, man. And just a couple weeks ago when I interviewed him, it's just like, I can't believe how great this man is. He could talk about anything. He was like, oh man, I don't know what to say, but I still can't believe it. And I wanted to play the interview again because it's such a great interview, and it was like one of my favorites of all time. And everybody loved it. He didn't do a lot of interviews, and he just came on, and we just talked for hours. We spent the day together. We went and had lunch, and we laughed. And I remember there was these there were these people. There was these people at the diner where we were at. They were on vacation, and they recognized him, and they were so happy. Oh, they were. Oh, they were so happy that they recognized him. They were like, "We love you," and they got a picture with him, and he was such a nice guy. I can't talk anymore. Anyway, please spread this interview around. I love you, Bill.
All right, here we are, another episode of Let There Be Talk. Fantastic guest today. I can't even believe it's happening.
Finally.
Bill Paxton, after all these years.
Dino, buddy, gosh, you finally cornered me in my lair. I have no choice but to talk to you.
I don't want to blow up your spot, but you live somewhere where I've been wanting to live for 20 years.
It's classic old Hollywood. It's the kind of place I had always wanted to live ever since I first came out here when I was 18.
Yeah.
I knew this building. It was here. I had no idea you could actually rent an apartment here. And I was getting ready to do my first season of Training Day.
Yeah.
And I live in the country. And
Yeah.
I've always kept kind of a crash pad in L.A., but I really wanted something nice because when you're doing these series, you're a monk. You know, you're shooting these. You know, we had 3 weeks to shoot the pilot. When once you start the season, you're shooting these in 8 days. It's
Yeah.
an hour drama, TV drama. So you're either at the studio or on location, or you're here learning lines, and you're in your place. You need a place that you're super comfortable, and this place is unbelievable.
Oh my God. Not only that, but it's like owning a classic Spanish home, but you're in an apartment.
Yeah.
I mean, they like this shit. They don't make this shit anymore, and it really baffles my mind when somebody will buy a building like this and tear it down to put up like condos or something. You know, like I was
that's
just
because they're not thinking about the
It's just
aesthetic or
income.
the historical value.
Yeah.
It's too bad. This place has a great history. It was built by a couple of prominent architects named the Davis brothers, built in 1928. But it really is like living in a piece of art. All the eye for the detail. How the whole place was put together, and
all the Spanish tile.
it's Spanish.
The floors, they look fake. They're so cool.
Yeah,
You know what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah.
The hardwood floors actually look like when you see those fake ones. They're
It
just
looks like they took some kind of a wood, like a gouging tool, and created an irregular pattern to give them a faux age, but they are like 90 years old now. But,
Yeah.
You know.
I walk around your place and it's exactly what I love. You've got some of the finest, coolest art in here. It's just amazing. Your taste is spectacular. And it's funny because sometimes you'll meet actors and you'll go to their place and they just have no taste or anything. And you're like, oh,
There's like Spartan quarters.
Yeah,
They're like
yeah,
a
yeah.
futon in the corner, and
Yeah.
they've kind of hung up a curtain. And I've never understood people that don't put things on their walls.
me either, right?
You know, even as a kid, and you'll love this. Even as a kid, I got this from my dad and my mom. They always had all the houses I grew up in had great interiors, but you don't have to be rich to live to enrich the environment you're living in.
Right.
Even you're living in a small apartment or you're living wherever you're living, you can put stuff on the walls, you can decorate, you can do things.
Yeah.
And they were great. And my dad, he grew up getting exposed to art in Kansas City. He said he had a 5th grade teacher that turned him on to Rubens. And then when he was 12, his family moved next door to a very prominent Missouri muralist. He was kind of the Diego Rivera of America, Thomas Hart Benton.
Right.
So he kind of grew up around art. And as he became a young man, even like when he was a bachelor living in Chicago in an apartment, he started buying art, but he would buy it on time. Most people are intimidated to even go in a gallery.
Yep.
And a lot of the gallery people are saying, "Oh, this is a good investment." And all that.
I hate that.
It's horrible. You buy. My dad was really cool. He really had a pure interest. His heart was pure.
Yep.
It wasn't tainted with, "Oh, can I make money from that?" Or he just said he kind of buy what he'd like, and he had a wide, just rainbow spectrum of the different things he would go for, but he would buy art on time. So say he saw a painting was $700.
Yeah.
He'd go to the gallery and say, "Gee, can I give you $70 and pay this off over the next year?" And so I've kind of copied that sense. But even as a kid, I collected posters. I came up and I was 14 in '69.
Yeah.
The whole
Beatles.
I'm not getting a chance to do the whole Haight-Ashbury scene. I'm in Fort Worth, Texas.
Yeah.
Suburban kid in Fort
Worth, man, that's a famous Zeppelin bootleg.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, is it
Oh,
really?
yeah.
God, I might have been. I saw them at Tarrant County Convention Center.
You saw Zeppelin?
At that time, but that was the only thing we'd get. The bands that would come through.
You saw
Grand Funk
Zeppelin?
Railroad and all these. Yeah. Oh yeah.
Holy
I
shit,
saw
what
Zeppelin.
year?
I saw Jimi Hendrix.
Whoa, you saw Hendrix?
Yeah, but it was at the end of his life.
Well, now,
But I had posters. I would collect the posters all coming out of Haight-Ashbury. It's so funny. Last night, I'm taking a shower. I got the TV on. I'm watching Antiques Roadshow.
Oh, yeah.
And this woman's got all these posters from the psychedelic era. You know, all the Bill Graham posters.
Yep.
It's great posters. And all of a sudden, there's the poster of the Jimi Hendrix, John Mayhall poster with the eye and the eagle
Oh, yeah,
wings,
that's the famous
claws.
one, yeah.
Really famous poster. Hell, I had that poster. I had a first edition of that poster, and so I'm seeing her, and I'm thinking, God, I wonder what that would be worth now.
Yeah.
And you know, that little twinkly music comes on.
Yeah.
And the wand goes by, and it shows the price.
Yeah.
$5,000 to $7,000. I bought this poster for $5.
Yeah, man.
But getting back to the whole idea of you know, feathering your nest or creating a nice environment, you know, I had all these posters all over my wall. I had the famous poster from Endless Summer.
Yeah.
I got my dad. My dad turned me on. You know, I wanted to get a black light, and he said, "Man, don't buy. You'll get ripped off at those. You know, these places."
Stoner stores.
Yeah, he said, "No, yeah, Stoner stores will rip you off." He said, "Just go to a lighting place." And God, we ordered a 4-foot black light.
Yeah.
I remember it took like about a month for it to arrive, and when it came in, I remember going up, taking it up into my room, and pulling down all the shades and plugging it in. And I had the Endless Summer poster and some of these Jimi Hendrix posters and the whole Day Glow thing. And so, but I always had stuff on the walls,
Yeah.
no matter where I was. And it was mostly posters.
Yeah. Yeah, me too. Early on.
And you can buy, you know, you go to an art museum, and they got beautiful posters of classic paintings.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, you can't own the original.
Get the
It's
prints.
priceless, but God, they do some beautiful posters.
Well, see, you know, when people come over too, I think it really says who you are. There's so much depth
It's a
when
way
I
of
walked into your place.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
of expressing yourself.
Yeah, I live in a new place now. I've been there exactly a year. I have done nothing to it because I keep thinking in my head, this is not permanent.
Well, that's the other thing too.
Yeah, I just lived in a place for 13 years that was a straight up rock and roll museum.
Yeah.
So when the guest would come in on the podcast, they'd sit down and they'd just be like, holy shit, man.
Yeah.
Hey, look at this photo of you here in 80, you know, whatever.
Yeah.
And paintings and rock photos.
Yeah, it's great. It's great. Now I just vacated a place last June that I had in Culver City for 2.5 years, and it was one of those places that I thought, yeah, this is going to be cool, and I like Culver City, okay, but it just ended up being a crash pad.
Yeah, that's me too.
I hung one painting.
Yeah.
Now I've been here since June, so that's what, 9 months. And
unbelievable.
I got stuff on
this place looks like you've lived here 20 years. I love it.
I know. Well, my mom passed last June at 90. So I've had to close out her house, and so I got a few pieces of furniture for my mom and dad's house, and a couple of things, and I got a few of my dad's books and stuff, and that's been kind of nice. It kind of keeps them alive in my mind in this place, and I needed a place in town again where I could really, because I'm here a lot when I'm working.
Yeah,
I'm learning lines. I mean, it just.
Well, this is a straight up. I mean. You know, like if I had this place, which you just showed me one, and I was like, my gears are going in my head.
Yeah.
Sell everything I own.
Yeah.
Everything. Move into that place. Way too expensive for me. But it's a mind space.
It's a mind space.
Where you go, okay.
Your mind feels good here.
I feel great. Like that's how I felt at my old place.
Yeah, you need a space.
Yeah, and you need to feel at home. And when I walk into this building, I'm like, oh, I need to be here. I got to figure out how to do it.
I think you do need to be here.
I do, man. And
I never moved into a place. I know we're kind of going off about this place, but when I came to Hollywood God, it's so long ago now. 1974, I was 18 years old. I come out here, and I'm going down Hollywood Boulevard on a bus, and I'm looking at, it's all run down, and I'm thinking, God, I miss this place by 50 years. I don't know where it comes from. My dad probably, because he took me to a lot of movies and turned me on to classic films on TV and stuff. But I had this idea of Hollywood was this kind of Valhalla.
Oh yeah,
that was part of Los Angeles, but a part of Los Angeles, the Hollywood Hills, and I kind of imagine. I don't know if I saw a documentary when I was a kid or something of old Hollywood, but I thought these kind of stately boulevards with olive trees and orange groves and these quiet sound stages and, Hollywood. It was kind of a, it was just, and then God, I come here and it's not anything like that. And, it's a funny place because it's a place that doesn't value its own history.
You're right.
And everything, it's all sets. Tear it down, build it up. So I had a buddy named Rocky Shank who's a great fine arts photographer, great video filmmaker, made a lot of classic videos, and we made a lot of early films together. And we shared this kind of passion for old Hollywood, and we would go around and looking, and I remember seeing this place back then and other places. This is what they call the historic district of West Hollywood.
Yeah.
And there's about 30 or 40, 50 buildings that are still left, but they're just little pockets, and like the Chateau Marmont up the street.
Of course.
There's not too many of those left.
You see a lot of it on the Sunset Strip documentary.
Yeah.
I was just talking to you about that. When you see that early
golden age,
it's really
golden age of
really
Hollywood.
radical how the energy of that, of that whole like this building here or the chateau. You just, when you walk in those places, they talk to you.
They sure
you're in there and you go like, and so, Johnny Depp, I think it was, or it might have been. What's his name from The Matrix?
Keanu Reeves.
One of those guys said, like, you're sitting somewhere where a guy probably wrote an incredible screenplay, or another guy was learning lines for, say, Apocalypse Now, or another guy was getting some ideas for cinematography.
A seminal play of the gay movement was written in this apartment.
That's radical.
By Mark Crowley. And he's still alive. He's a Southern playwright. He's moved back to the South. He was a Natalie Wood's assistant. He was trying to write, and she supported him to write this play.
Wow.
The play was The Boys and the Band.
Yeah.
The first play that really dealt with, with contemporary gay, life. And I've got to find this thing while you're talking, but there's a beautiful thing that's written about the play. And anyway, I love the idea that he was writing this play, and Natalie Wood was his muse and friend, and he ended up, working for her company when she was married to Robert Wagner and stuff. But I want to see if I can find this thing that was written about it, because it's such a beautiful review of The Boys in the Band, and it makes you realize that art can change society for the better.
That's all I ever promote all the time. It's just
not that art has to always have a teaching thing, but I love the idea that this one does. I gotta kind of look this up. We can keep talking about it. I'm just going to try to find this. Good Lord, how many of these things do I have?
Oh man, you got like 800 windows open on your phone. You're worse than me.
No wonder my phone's always running out of gas here. Well, let's keep moving through here. Oh, here it is.
Oh, you got it.
Yeah. The Boys in the Band play. William Friedkin's first movie.
Wow.
And it says this kind of a really beautiful thing here about the thing. The reception and impact. And this is a quote by a guy named Peter Filchia in 2002 from Theater Mania found the 1969 Stonewall riots and gay rights movement inspired by the play. When the play originally premiered, Filchia quoted, it's a great quote, "After gays saw The Boys in the Band, they no longer would settle for thinking of themselves as pathetic and wouldn't be perceived as such any longer. Now that characters had brought their feelings out of the closet, this new generation would dare to be different. And just as some whites' view of blacks changed after seeing A Raisin in the Sun, so too did the outlook of many straights after they caught The Boys in the Band. Some whom I personally know felt terrible, and I saw this happen actually changed the way they treated gays."
Wow, that's amazing, right?
So talking about history, yeah. So it's cool. It is, and again, it's inspiring to be here, to think that art was created here, and it is like living in a piece of art. That, again, I think back then, you know, they weren't thinking, I don't know, about, it doesn't seem like they're thinking so much about the economics. They're really trying to see, to make something beautiful.
I wonder what this place would rent for back then, you know, because I do a huge part of my show now is about how high rents are.
I think they were always luxury apartments to a certain degree. Now, weirdly enough, they're considered kind of rustic.
Yeah.
Because, there's certain rooms that get cold as hell and hot as hell in the summer and the winter. And the downstairs in the kitchen, there's no hot water. And there's funky things like that. And, you know, they have a hard time renting these places, which is it just baffles me.
Absolutely.
Because people want more modern stuff. And
fuck all that.
I just don't really.
Those modern joints, you could hear your neighbors fucking and all that stuff. You know what I mean? You're just like, come on, man, hurry up, finish it.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, God.
I want to tell you a story. There's a few things that, first of all, I absolutely love you, man. And the day that I met you, I never forgot it. You know, you and I went out. We went to that club, Guys, and I told you the story about my prank calls, Ice Cream Lady, and you started laughing so hard that I actually thought you were going to die.
Oh, yeah. At one point, that happens to me occasionally.
We had to leave, you know, because I was like...
nothing better than a deep belly laugh. It's cathartic.
Yeah.
Almost like getting all the gestalt and all the garbage out, you know.
It really is.
You are funny, Dean. You are a funny guy.
But you were so supportive of me. Like, I didn't know what the fuck I was doing. I played music and all. So now I'm doing this pilot. You see it and you love it. The Truth.
Yeah.
And
The Truth was great.
And you were just so into it. And it made me feel great because I think in this world where if you get a chance, like I got a chance to do that, or if I did some movies and stuff, it's such a weird world. It takes a person like that, you who I completely worshipped all your work, said, that's fucking great, you know, and then I feel good. And then I pursued comedy, you know, later on, like, I was like, I can do this.
You were funny. You had a vision, a point of view. And I've always been optimistic and supportive. And, you know, acknowledgement costs you nothing.
Yeah,
we're all in this. We're all on the Titanic here.
Yeah,
and you know, I told you I was doing Mark Maron's show, and he talked about this. You know, this being in the mind trap. We all need to reach out and it's when we're engaged with others is when life is its most beautiful.
Absolutely.
And it keeps you out of the self-absorption and the depression and the neuroses that go with all that.
Yeah.
And I thought you got to tell your constituents, your listeners about the truth. Bring us back to that. 'Cause,
yeah.
God, I just remembered it when you said it. Tell them the character and what it was about.
The show was basically...
Fred directed that.
Yeah.
Fred Durst.
Yep. And it was basically an idea of a spin on Fred played a TV evangelist.
That's it.
I play his right-hand man. So the idea is while we're in there, Fred has a wife, or no, I have a wife, and she says, you guys ought to create your own religion, like Scientology meets Mormon, meets Christian, meets shady Houdini stuff, like where we cruise around and just throw up a tent and make money. Like, come on in and find out what the truth is. And then people are like, what's the truth? And we hit them over the head with it with chairs and stuff. You know what I mean?
You've been hit by the truth.
You've been hit by the truth.
Oh, God, it's great.
And then my character...
Elmer Gantry all over again. Yeah, it's so good.
My character wants to be the evangelist.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
But I'm like secretly like, you know, like I'm on his side, but I really want to be the evangelist. And the idea is, how can two losers travel around America and snowboard and you know, eat in great restaurants and everything?
Fund that trip.
Yeah, exactly. That's all we weren't looking to get super rich. We were just looking to like do dumb stuff with the money, you know.
It's a funny thing.
And it was all ad lib.
And I remember it was about a 20-30 minute piece.
30 minutes. Yeah, and it was
super entertaining and funny and
yeah,
hitting them over the head with the chairs. like you've been,
Yeah.
heal kind of thing. You've been hit with the truth.
Yeah. It's almost
Very
like
good.
the snake bite kind of stuff.
Oh, it's great stuff.
Which
Great
is
stuff.
amazing when you think about it, because I remember you did Big Love.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of heat from the Mormon world when that came out, right?
I guess I to me it was a show and that kind of put a human face on a religion that I think a lot of Americans and people around the world always kind of were a little kind of wary of or thought of as kind of a cult because
Yeah,
of
magic
polygamy
underwear,
and-
that kind of stuff.
Yeah. And this was like, hey, these people have their beliefs, and look, people's beliefs. One person's belief is as legitimate as another person's belief. And I tell you one thing about that show is I when I heard what it was, I was a little wary to even be involved with it.
Really?
Yeah, because I thought, look, if this is going to be trying to satirize or lampoon a religion, then I'm not into that. I'm not into that because I have enough respect for other people and what their beliefs are. That's really I respect their beliefs. They might not be mine.
It's amazing you say that, because I had a huge artist on, one of my great friends, a full-blown biker and everything, Jeff Decker. He does giant bronzes. He's unbelievable. Grew up in Salt Lake City, or grew up here but moved to Salt Lake City, full Mormon, and he came on and described it all. And once you hear it described, you're like, well, that's, you only hear the stuff, like, oh, they're crazy. They sleep with 8 wives and they got magic underwear and they, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But when you have like a great friend who's into it, you go, well, tell me what it is. You know what I mean?
Yeah, we got to have an open mind in this world, and you might be in. That's how you become enlightened, by taking everything in.
You're so right, dude.
And but the show, I was a little worried when I heard the pitch of the show, but then I read the pilot script, and Mark Olson and Will Sheffer, the creators of that show, they really had done their homework, and this was really taking a microcosmic subculture in America. The idea of polygamy, the fundamentalist polygamists, FDLES, and using it to kind of, using it as a prism to kind of view contemporary, mores, taboos about sex, religion, marriage, all these, contemporary social issues. It was very, very clever. These guys are very smart, Mark and Will. And I read the pilot, and it was, I thought it was going to be about some guy, who's proselytizing out in some, hard scrabble desert place, and there's barbed wire, and there's chickens, and women, barefoot women wearing gingham dresses, and and then I read the pilot, and it's so not that.
Yeah.
It's so interesting and so smart. And then I said, I'm in. Actually, Chloe 70 was the first to sign up. I was the second. And then Jean Triplehorn and Jennifer Goodwin. And, for 5 seasons, we put a show together with Mark and Will and all these great other actors and great crew members. And that we were all really proud of. And it was a great run. And those gals were terrific.
Yeah.
They were.
The show was a home run.
Oh, yeah.
Super successful.
Have you seen Jean Triplehorn and Eddie Vedder, where she sings "Shattered"
No.
as Julie Andrews?
No.
Oh, you you guys out there, you got to go on YouTube and punch in Jean Triplehorn, Eddie Vedder.
Okay.
And she sings "Shattered" by the Rolling Stones, a la Julie Harris, Sound of Music. It's pretty, Julie Andrews,
No
Sound of
shit.
Music. Pretty funny stuff.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny because growing up, this is how weird Hollywood is. Growing up, I see Weird Science, of course, and then I see Aliens. Those are the two things, and then Tombstone, which is one of the all-time epic Western films. I see these 3 films, and I'm like, God, this guy, you were that guy that, that dude, man. And it was always like, Chet's in Aliens.
I still get Chet.
Yeah,
Chet's with me right now.
Yeah.
Aren't you, Chet?
You look at your thumb like The Shining.
You're damn right he is.
But it's funny to meet you later, because I was like, holy shit, I watched you growing up, in all your roles, you murdered it and stole the film, you know, especially in Aliens, man. You really take that movie, you know? You got the lines.
You know, it's so funny. When I did the movie, I thought, good Lord, everybody's going to want this character. The audience is going to go, when are they going to kill this guy? You know?
Yeah.
You know, that kind of kvetching kind of energy and we're going to die and amen and I can't deal with all this shit and all this stuff. And it was a hard energy to sustain. At the time, I felt the pressure of the role. I had a great experience working, and I had Jim Cameron. I knew.
Yeah.
You know, I came up I came up with Jim when he was
how
an
did
art
you know
director.
him?
I met him in 1980 on a movie that ended up. It was called The Quest. It was a Roger Corman film. It was a sci-fi thing. It starred. Oh God, I can't even remember. Grace Zabriskie was in it. Who ended up playing? I played her son on Big Love. Great actress from Twin Peaks and many other movies.
Twin Peaks, amazing.
But I met Jim and he was looking for guys for a night crew, and they had Corman's had an old lumber yard called Hammond Lumber that was down in Venice that they had turned into kind of a quasi studio, but it was funky as hell. We couldn't build the sets very high because hell, the ceilings weren't that high in this big warehouse.
Just an old lumber yard?
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah. Just funny. And I got to know Jim, and he started opening up to me. At the time, I'd made a short film that I sold to Saturday Night Live called Fish Head.
I saw that.
And Jim started opening up to me, telling me about a movie he hoped to make about a cyborg from the future that comes to the present to kill a woman who's going to lead a revolution against the machines. I'm like, wow, Jim, far out.
Yeah. And, Terminator back then?
Yeah, but I had worked. But getting back to Aliens, he was writing that 4 years before he got to make it.
That's insane.
But he was somebody that I got introduced to him through a guy named Phil Granger, who was an actor who also, like myself, kind of moonlit on jobs so he could be around the film sets working in the art department. And that's how I got started out here.
That's kind of like your son now, right?
Yeah, my son was working on the prop truck on Nightcrawler, and then he worked behind the scenes and had a small part in Texas Rising. Now he's got a big part in a miniseries called Eyewitness that Catherine Hardwicke
That's
directed.
amazing, man.
But getting back to Aliens, I had done Weird Science, and I had a great experience with John Hughes on that. He really let me throw stuff in, and my dad was from the Midwest, Kansas City and Chicago. That's where he met my mom, and my dad was a traveling salesman for a family lumber business. So he had a lot of great expressions, greasy pork sandwich and a dirty all this stuff, and I started throwing this stuff in with John, and John was just egging me on, and I had a lot of comments. But when I came to do Aliens, I kind of pressured myself in a different way. It was because it was Jim. Jim, it was a good friend, and I this was a big role, and I pressured myself in a weird kind of way on that, and that playing that disturbed, hyper, scared energy, instead of now I'd be smart enough to really embrace that energy and just really go gonzo with it. But at the time, I felt like I was pushing. We call it pushing when you're not really there, but you're doing it anyway.
Right.
It's not organic.
It's not organic.
Yeah. And God, I'd go home from the set. I mean, we were shooting in England. I go back to the flat I was staying in, and my guts hurt. I thought, God, am I really? Is this? But Jim was
early on. You were feeling like that. You weren't just like
pretty much
that's
throughout the
that's
thing.
pretty interesting.
I had a lot of anxiety. I've been plagued with anxiety. It's kind of in my family blood. Depression, anxiety. That's why I need to be always kind of doing something, and I don't play well with myself. I'm not well left to my own devices, but that I kind of let it get to me. But Jim was so encouraging. Sigourney was so supportive. Michael Biehn, Jeanette Goldstein, Mark Ralston, Rico Ross. I mean, Carrie, who played Newt. I mean, she was just a little girl. But it was a good hang. Lance Henriksen, of course. It was a great hang. We were all in England. We all hung out. We weren't filming. And I had a good experience. But I felt when I got back from that and the movie hadn't come out yet, I felt like, God, I just pushed it, But Jim when I saw the film, I was kind of amazed how well the Hudson character came off.
It was insane, man. I thought it was the best part of it. You know,
Jim was a genius because he knew that he was going to take the audience into this, you know, this very malevolent, scary world with these aliens. You know, Ridley Scott did it kind of like a spook house,
right?
Or kind of like Jaws.
Nothing till the end,
and you don't know where it's going to jump out, and you know it's bad, and you know it's there, and that almost is more kind of like terrifying. And then Jim said, you know what, we're going to blow this up in a whole different way. This is going to be a ride on a roller coaster.
Right.
You know, Ridley's is the spook house ride.
Yep.
Where you don't know where it's coming out. Jim's was the roller coaster. We're going to have hundreds of them. They're going to be coming out of the woodwork. They're going to coming through the ceiling. Literally.
I loved it better than the first one.
But it had a different energy.
It did.
And stuff. And you got to give homage to Ridley Scott.
Of course.
Of making an all-time science fiction classic. And Jim being smart enough to go, I can't do that. That's been done.
Yeah.
Let me take it in a whole new way.
You've already seen the aliens. Now let's see lots of aliens.
But it was a scary ride, and so he used my character as the pressure release valve.
Yep.
The guy who's the idiot Marine who's saying the stupid stuff at the right time. But
are we going to kill him? What's the big line when you're in the cave?
I like the moment we should nuke the site from outside, and Hudson's like, "You fucking A, yeah," and he kind of saying what the audience want to hear, and he used it really well. And then I was like, "Wow, well that's okay." And you know what? I think we're all really hard on ourselves, and. You know, I remember doing my first professional play, and I was the understudy, and the lead dropped out a week before opening, and I had to take over. And I only lasted a couple weeks in the play because I pressured myself. I should have said, hey, you're smart enough, you got the part. Just get in there, learn from it. But, you know, we do these numbers on ourselves.
I hear you, dude.
I don't need, hey, reviewers, they can rip me a new one all day long. Listen, they don't know how hard I rip myself.
Yeah,
so
right.
It's tough. I'm kind of an unlikely performer in some ways because it's all completely terrifying to me, really.
It's amazing because when I watch you, first of all, when I talk to you a lot, your knowledge, and you remind me a lot about when I talk about rock music, your knowledge is so in depth. Like you take the craft super serious, and you know everything. Like I'll talk to you and you'll be like, "Oh, the cameraman on that actually worked on."
Yeah, I don't know how smart I am, but I've had a love of film and theater and art because of the way I was raised. I had a dad that took me to movies and art galleries and plays, as opposed to football and baseball games.
That's amazing.
Once in a while, I go to a baseball game, but not much. You know, you kind of end up doing what your parents want to do, especially when you're young. But my dad would take me and my older brother Bob, to plays or movies, and he would take us to see what he wanted to see. He would rationalize it by saying, I don't believe in censorship, but you know, he wasn't going to take us to a Disney movie. That's something we saw on a matinee on a Saturday.
You're going to go see Cuckoo's Nest.
Yeah, or Midnight Cowboy.
Yeah.
What's Bob Balaban doing to John Voight up in the balcony of that movie theater? Goes, oh, he's copping his joint. And you see when it cuts the spaceship exploding, that's him having an orgasm in his mouth. Like,
your dad's telling you that?
No.
Your dad's telling you that?
Yeah.
Amazing.
Oh my God, I'm 11 years old. I'm like, my ears.
Wow. My mom was the same way.
Stuff.
My mom wanted to go to see drive-ins, and I'd be in the back seat seeing like Rollerball and Death Race 2000 and The Omen,
Nobody talks about drive-ins anymore.
God.
But my dad would want to talk about the art direction or the lighting or some damn thing. So from an early age, I was aware of the art of his, and so I had a love of that. I thought, yeah, that's cool. They built that. Oh yeah, they picked those clothes. Oh wow, the light is coming in. Oh yeah, there is music behind the scene. And if as a kid you're just watching the movie, you're not thinking about all that.
Not
shit.
at all, right?
But when you're made aware of it, but you just mentioned drive-in movies. Oh God, I'm from Texas.
Yeah.
Drive-in movies were just a huge part of the culture.
It's so great,
There's
right?
not a lot of things to do down there. Go listen to some music, maybe, or like most places. But
it's epic.
I
the
love drive-in movies.
Do you remember some of the films you saw at drive-ins?
Oh, God, yeah.
Yeah.
I remember seeing Night of the Living Dead.
Amazing. You had to be scared in your car, right?
And I was a little bit older when that came out. I was probably about 14. My brother was 16, and we were with another buddy, and we went. And my brother had this. His first car was this 67 or 68. You know, kind of that kind of creamy green, electrician's green.
Oh, seafoam green.
Is that?
Ooh,
Yeah,
I love
green.
that.
It was a Chevy 6-cylinder, pickup truck, and my
Three
dad-
on the tree.
3 on the tree, baby, right on.
I love it.
Oh, God.
3 on the tree.
We used to
Man, that's
just
so
trying
great.
to get rubber on
First
that.
up, when second down, third
Absolutely.
out, and then reverse all the way down.
Column shift.
Yeah.
And God, my dad had bought this truck for my brother as his first car, but it was supposed to be a farm vehicle. My dad moved us all out from suburban Fort Worth to around 1969. Suddenly, we're living out in the last picture show. We're about 30 miles out of town in a town called Aledo, Texas.
Wow, that's some giant shit there.
Real kind of a town where little high school. They had like 40 graduates a year in the high school. You had to play football. One of these kind of places.
Wow,
I was 69. It was 69. I wanted to ride a motorcycle, and chase girls, smoke Marlboros.
What did your dad do that for? Because he's so into the art, it seems like he's taking away.
You know what he did? He built his dream house with my mom along a golf course, Shady Oaks Golf Course in Fort Worth. He
built it himself?
I was raised upper middle class. Oh God, no, he had it built.
Right.
Got it full of nice hardwood floors and special paneling because he was in the hardwood lumber business, and this was their dream house. But after 5 years there, the guy he had bought it for, the developer, rezoned the property. And this really angered my dad because my dad wasn't an angry guy, but he's just like, I paid a premium for the lot and I built this nice house, and now you've rezoned it so they can put a 7-Eleven across the street. They never did, but that was enough for my dad to go, you know what? We're going to move somewhere where I can have some land. And
Yeah.
he had about 20 acres and a house, and then he leased an extra 60 acres. And so to get the tax deferment, he bought 15 Hereford cows and bought a fourth interest in an Angus bull that we had 3 months out of the year.
Yeah.
Of course, me and my older brother Bob had to take care of these damn cows. And the bull. And, God, this poor bull would. God, by the time it got up to the trough in the winter, you'd put out kind of this kind of cake and kind of a supplement and hay. And they'd come over 60 acres, and they could heat these 50-gallon drums they'd cut in half and made these long troughs out of. These guys would weld them. And
Yeah.
they'd hear the bucket and they'd hear that stuff hitting, and they'd come. This old bull would just be trying to drag his ass up there. And I thought of the bull. I thought, that bull's got a great life. Because I was 14, 15 years old. I was starting to go, all I wanted to do was fuck. That's all you want to do when you're that age. Or think about sex, or be trying to have sex. And I thought, God, this bull's got a great life. Just it comes in, sires the herd, sits back. He has no competition.
Yeah.
But then this poor bull, it would take him longer and longer, it seemed like, over the couple months he was with us to get to the trough, to the point where the cows would have eaten all the food by him, so I'd have to go out in the pasture and take him a bucket. And I looked into this bull's eyes one day and I said, what kind of hell are you living in? It kind of suddenly hit me. It struck me that, God, maybe this isn't a consummation to be wished for. The sad bull looked like he was just sapped.
Yeah, you know what that was? That's like when you're living out in the country, you know what I mean? And you're dying to get back into Hollywood. You need to live, like we're saying.
you gotta live.
Need to be out.
You
He
can't be
needed
too
some other
isolated.
dudes around to chill with. You know what I mean? Like, hey, man.
He definitely needed some dudes, I think,
Yeah.
to help share the workload.
The workload. His sack was empty. That's hilarious, man.
Oh, God. Drive-in movies.
Drive-in movies,
Before
okay.
we go off, I got to say, so anyway, in this pickup truck, I love these tangents. We go to see Night of the Living Dead.
Yeah.
A movie made really cheap in black and white and just disturbing as hell. And there's a 16-year-old brother with a buddy of his who's 16. I'm 14. And it just scared the hell out of us. We saw it at the Cherry Lane Drive-In.
Yeah.
I'll always love the names, Cherry Lane.
Yeah, right?
Yeah, baby.
Mine was the Parkway.
Or the Western, the Westerner.
Yeah.
And some of them were really cool. Like the Westerner was, it's kind of like it was kind of it was just a screen, but they had built something behind it, and there was a kind of a Western mural of a guy in a bucking bronco.
Oh, yeah.
And it was kind of lit up at
And they
night.
always had those playgrounds like you see on The Outsiders.
They had the playgrounds in the front.
They
of the
always
thing.
had this where the kids would just go play
like
on that shit while the parents watch the movies.
Or
Like,
did
go outside.
whatever.
It's pitch dark,
Yeah.
rusty equipment. My arm.
And it was a lot of people, a lot of these people there because, God, it was just so damn hot. And the only
That's
time
it.
there was any relief was at night, maybe.
Maybe.
I mean, it could be 90 degrees at night.
Yeah.
With humidity.
I saw that they still got the one up there by the Madonna Inn off the 101.
Yeah.
It's still there. In the
Yeah.
summer, they show movies out there in Santa,
it's great.
what is that, Santa Maria or whatever.
I thought what they should do, Hollywood in the last, 20 years has finally kind of gotten hep that they've just never respected their own history. I mean, there's not a Hollywood museum
Yeah.
to the motion picture
It's
arts.
dumb, right?
It's almost, we're going to be, we're celebrating the centennial of Hollywood here. It's going back to the, to the teens is really when Hollywood's, making motion pictures here.
Yeah.
And I always thought, and they're slowly gentrifying things, and they're actually, the Academy's building a museum. It's Renzo Piano's designing down there near the, LA County and all that. But I always thought it'd be cool to, in the flats somewhere, to buy out a block, because a rundown block,
Yeah.
bulldoze it, and build an old drive-in movie.
Yeah.
Just for, because to, again, celebrate another part of Hollywood that's really died.
Oh.
I mean, the drive-in movie had this incredible, I don't even know when they started. Would they start when, in the 40s, 30s?
I don't know.
But they kind of had their height in the 50s and 60s, and by the 70s, the Metroplex was coming in, and by the 80s, and now, I mean, they're gone the way of the,
I see them when I
the
travel
buffalo.
around America sometimes. I'll
But
be
they're
going.
mostly flea markets and shit now,
Yeah, there's that dumb one on the 5 before.
It's in the Santa Fe.
That one, but those magical ones, like the one on the 101 still, where they're just kind of like in no man's land. All of a sudden you go, whoa, when I see one now, it's a time machine. I'll be riding my motorcycle and I go, oh shit, I'll pull over for a minute. There's the marquee, and it'll say like $5 a car. And I'll be like, oh my God, I would love to. I remember Cujo played all summer at ours, And
I remember movies like That Darn Cat.
Yeah.
And just all
Howard
kinds
the
of
Duck
things.
played at it all year one year,
God.
that
Great
film.
stuff.
Yeah.
Great stuff. The other thing was, some of them, at its height, there might be 3 drive-ins.
Oh yeah, they had it by the Cow Palace in San Fran. There was 3 of them.
And it was something cool about seeing those big movie screen images where you couldn't hear the sound. You'd be driving by and see that. And
Oh, yeah.
there was one. It was called. I'm trying to remember the name of it, but it was kind of not. It was when I was about 10, 11. Me and a buddy of mine named Guy Roberts used to spend the night, and we would walk. It was really far away. But we'd kind of sneak out of the house. We'd have a little back knapsack with some cookies and shit. And we'd walk way the hell over to this place. I mean, it was a couple of miles. We could kind of cut through some some undeveloped suburban land and stuff, across a couple of highways. And we would go over the fence and climb over the fence to drive, and then go, and we take the speaker down, and we just kind of hunker down by the base of the speaker pole, and sit up there and watch the movies. And sometimes we'd get kicked out, and a lot of times I'd be watching them, and you couldn't even hear the sound. It was the first time I became aware of editing.
Yeah.
And and you saw how the images were kind of, again, I was always kind of thinking about it as a piece of film because of my dad. When when you're in the 6th grade, you kind of start writing term papers. And I remember I wrote the first term, I remember having to write 2 term papers, I think in the first half of the 6th grade and the second half of the 6th grade. My first term paper, I always remember, was on bullfighting.
Wow.
And my second term paper was, I called it A Bird's Eye View, and it was about filmmaking.
Wow.
And that was, and I remember going down, I used to, I like talking about movies, and experiences and, things I haven't thought about in a long time, but we lived about 10 minutes by car from downtown Fort Worth. And I remember on Saturdays when I was doing research, I'll get a buddy. I remember like Jerry Stursky and guys like different buddies, and I was going to school with at this Catholic school, and we'd take a cab downtown, and we'd go to the public library and do research. He'd be doing a paper, I'd be researching a paper. And I remember researching this and this term paper about filmmaking, and then we would go to this place. It was a hamburger place that had featured hamburgers from around the world. And it's just Swiss cheese went into, and then we would go. There were these 3 big movie palaces downtown. There was the Worth, there was the Hollywood, and there was the Palace Theater. And we would catch a matinee. That was that was kind of a cool Saturday.
Yeah.
And sound like a lot. It was really fun. We'd go downtown, research from about 10 to about 1 o'clock, getting some workbooks and stuff. Then we'd go to this hamburger place, and then we'd go see a movie. See like To Sir with Love, or for a fistful of dollars, or whatever the movies were at the time. And but I remember getting this book out on movie making, and it looked like a book that was old then.
Yeah.
This is back in the 60s, but the book looked like it's probably from the 40s or something. And it had the basic nomenclature of shots, how the master shot works, and these kind of simple diagrams, and the medium shot, the close up, the over the shoulder, and then when you go to do the reverse of that, over you have 2 people talking like us talking.
Yeah, dirty over the shoulder.
Me, and then it has to go over the other shoulder, so when it cuts, it doesn't. You have to have screen direction.
I just learned that shit on the set,
Yeah.
Because the guy would be like, "We're shooting."
That doesn't work.
He goes, "We're shooting dirty," and I was like, "Shooting dirty? Yeah, over your shoulder." I go, "I don't even know what the fuck that means."
Yeah,
I'm
dirty.
acting like I know, and then I'm standing there. And he goes, "No, I said we're shooting dirty over your shoulder, or cheated. Hey, we got to come over here, cheated." I'm like, "What's cheated?" You know what I mean? And I'm just acting like I know, And you got like fucking Dennis Hopper looking at you like, "This fucking clown," He's like, "Where am I in life?"
Yeah, there's a lot of great shorthand, that we use on the set.
Yeah, and
I guess a layperson would think,
if you've never done a film,
or something.
You don't know anything. They're not telling you.
Yeah.
And the director just comes up.
A cowboy or what?
He's like, "This guy got on the film from a friend. Fuck him." You know what I mean? Whatever.
Oh God, Jesus! Oh my gosh.
It's interesting because when I started working, I remember you said, "Go see this acting coach, Vincent Chase."
Yeah.
Which I was like, "You mean from Entourage?"
Yeah. Well, that's where they got the name from, Vince.
Right.
Mark and I did a movie with Vince years ago that I produced called Traveler. And I was looking for a guy to co-star in that with, and I had seen Mark Wahlberg in a movie called Fear, and I'd seen him in the Basketball Diaries, and I thought, this guy's got animal magnetism. He's watchable.
He was great in
He had
Boogie Nights,
intensity,
right?
and he also always had a dignity. Mark Wahlberg in his work. I mean, he does some crazy stuff sometimes. I love it when Mark knows he's a character actor in the piece.
Yeah.
Like in I Heart Huckabees.
Like on Patriot Day. He plays that kind of. He's like a big kind of drinker cop. Like, I said, "Look out, man!"
Yeah, I love that, and he'll go there. But even The Departed.
Oh yeah,
he just served everybody.
Boogie Nights, he crushed it.
Boogie Nights, when he it's hard, because I know the thing when you're doing the lead or the straight lead or whatever, you kind of have to, all the other supporting actors kind of get to kind of play over you. You kind of be the audience, and you got to kind of be the straight guy, and that. You end up kind of playing. Well, you never really play yourself when there's a camera in front of you, but you're kind of, because when you know you've got a character to play, like Training Day for me it's a character lead.
Right.
So I'm having a real fun time with the bad boy cop who's really sardonic, and he's got the trainee, and he's just going to bust this guy's balls, and
right.
I'm his mentor, but I'm really his tormentor.
Kind of like Colors with Sean Penn and Duvall. You know what I mean? You see it later on where Penn's like, "We're going to go down there."
But
and
I'm looking out for the guy.
Right,
it sounds like I'm corrupting him. I'm going to keep you alive because there's you forget what you learned in the academy. But Mark always had that. We made this movie Traveler, getting back to that. And I don't even know why we got into that, but
because we're talking about Vincent Chase.
And so I got Vince to be in it. Vince has been my professor. He's been my godfather. He's really been my acting coach, who I owe any success that I've had, or whatever you want to call it. It really goes back to Vince. Going back to Weird Science, Aliens,
all the way back then you were working with him?
Yeah.
So before you have him,
Yeah.
are you just going in with no schooling? Because that's what I really want to know
I studied
is
in New York for a couple of years. I came out here. I worked behind the camera for about 3 years out here, mostly in the art department from the time I was 18 to 21. I wanted to go to college. I thought I'd go to college. I wanted to go to film school. I tried to go to SC, UCLA. I'd worked in the film industry. I'd made short films, but I had crappy SAT scores. They wouldn't have me. Then I started thinking, screw film school. I mean, film's not even 100 years old. This is back in the 70s. I'm thinking, you know what? I was an avid reader of film biographies of directors, of actors, stuff. I had been working on films. I was making my own films. That's how you learn how to do something. I'd already been apprenticing. I didn't really need to go and take a film theory class. You know, I'd done that work on my own. Again, going back to the 6th grade.
Yeah, it's like rock and roll. You don't go to school to learn how to make rock records.
Yeah.
You just start making fucking records.
Yeah.
You're in the studio.
And you start that 10,000 hours process.
Exactly.
You know, and that's how you master anything. You just have to put in the hours. The 10,000 hours is what you need to, they say,
At what point,
something.
when you are acting, because I don't think, I'll never get good at it because I don't do it like comedy, I do 7 nights a week, and I start.
See, that's the stuff, though. Again,
That's it. I start to feel stuff like, oh wow, this is working. At what point when you're acting, like which film do you really feel like?
They're up and down for me. I've been able to execute with great confidence, and some not. Like I was telling you about Aliens, it turned out great, but I really pressured myself and felt like I was unsure, and maybe that was what Jim Cameron really did want, because he, the actor playing the part to be unsure, because it certainly came out in the performance. Whereas when I did Weird Science, like I was saying, I had this guy just egging me on, bring out this stuff. Well, I didn't think it was a poodle's dick, honey, or whatever the hell I say there, and just all that stuff we were having fun with. But you were asking me about my professional background. After 3 years out here, I couldn't get into film school. I wanted to go and study. I decided I wanted to go study acting. I looked to study in England and maybe get in a night course at one of the big acting schools there. And I was going to work at the Hard Rock Cafe. By then, I'd quit working in the art department. I took a job for, about 7-8 months at a bookstore in Beverly Hills. And it was kind of amazing, but because all these different luminaries would come in. I remember Saturday mornings, Fred Astaire would come by to get the papers. And
wow,
it's kind of cool. But I would just read. I just read all these biographies. Then I thought, I want to go study. I want to go to college. And I thought, I'm going to study acting. I want to really study acting. And NYU had a program where you could study with it was a brand new program. I was literally the guinea pig year, the first year they tried it. And you could take academics at Washington Square towards a BA, but also on the other half would be studying in a professional school, acting school. And
wow.
all the 4 disciplines, there was Circle in the Square, Experimental Wing, Lee Strasberg, and Stella Adler.
Wow.
And Stella Adler was the one I thought, Stella was Brando's teacher. And it seemed like the most no-nonsense, real nuts and bolts, basic foundation to help you learn how to build a character.
That method stuff?
It wasn't method. No, it wasn't method at all. It was the opposite of method.
Got you.
You get a part, you break down the part, you get the part, you learn the part.
How do you do that? Like
it's script analysis. It's we had to take all these different classes, but the meat and potatoes of Stella's work was really all foundational work. Boil it down. What's the author trying to say in this play? That's your job.
Yeah.
You're not there to say, look what a great actor I am. You're there to get you have to have a conviction that you have to build from scratch. All the clues are in the script, but then you have to go and build that character. you're playing Stanley Kowalski in Streetcar Named Desire. This guy's a longshoreman, and he lives, his education, his sexuality, what are his, you have to break it all down.
You're breaking that down just by reading it.
What's the play about? This disintegration of this relationship, and this woman comes in who's delusional, Blanche DuBois, and how they they kind of drive each other to this raw place where all this, everything's exposed. You have to kind of, what's the playwright trying to say? And that's really what your job is. And if you're focused on that and doing that, the rest of it, you don't think about, oh, I'm up here acting. I got a job to do here, so I'm going to do it the best I can. But that was a way of learning. The Strasberg was more of the method. It was more about, it more had to do with a lot of psychoanalysis and finding things inside you or from your past. Because Stella said, if you're playing a murderer and you've never murdered anybody, well, how do you know how to?
Yeah.
You have to be able to use research, your imagination, and yourself. You use everything. And so I got it, but I didn't learn it. She said, you'll learn it in here, or it'll take you 25 years out there doing it wrong.
Wow.
And some people never learn. And I'm still, to me, it's an evolving thing. I look, every time I suit up for something, a new character, I just, I'm expecting to just get a pie in the face.
Oh.
But you get out there and you start working. You've done the work ahead of time. Most of the work's been done before you get to the set.
You still go to coaching?
I still work with Vince. He's slowing down quite a bit. He's at 87 now, but I owe him my whole career because Stella was great. I did that program for 2 years, but she was tough, and I was intimidated as hell by her.
Oh, really?
She kind of taught with a bullwhip, and because she didn't want, she really, you really, she said acting is not a consummation. Being an actor is not a be wished for. You're going to really be an artist, you really want to go, then you really have to go there. It has to be something you're consumed by. And she was so disciplined and so intense. And I came back out here, and then I was kicking around, working in the art department. I told you about meeting Jim and stuff and different things. And I got a little bit of work, and I was building on what I had learned with her. But it wasn't until I met Vincent Chase, and I had a small part in a movie that Frank Rodham, who did Quadrophenia, it was his first Hollywood movie.
Quadrophenia?
Well, no, that was a British film, but then he made his first American film was The Lords of Discipline for Paramount Pictures.
You auditioned for it?
Fox had a big hit with Taps. Paramount thought, hey, we got this Pat Conroy novel. It's kind of set in that military world.
Yeah.
And I auditioned for Frank, and I think it was Ellen Chenoweth was the casting director. I know, yes, she was, and I was like the last guy to 12 that got hired, and that was a crazy great experience to get to go to England. That was my first job. But why was the hell I was talking? I'm getting back to the acting thing. So I met two actors on that movie.
Yeah,
an actor named Rick Rossovich, who was a very physical kind of comedic, extroverted kind of energy, an actor, and he had a great role. He plays Pig Nettie, who gets drummed out of the school and has to go down the walk of shame, and he's this bigger than life character. From the minute you meet him in the movie, he's just bigger than life, and he was wonderful, just wonderful, and he was living the part, and he was really enjoying London, and God, just I kind of was like, oh my God, I love this guy, even though he kind of would haze me a little bit, even off the set, because I was with Michael Bean's crew. Now, he was the other actor.
Yeah.
Michael Bean, and I was with his crew, and his approach was much more more controlled, more introverted, more cerebral, but very effective. And he was playing the head of the 10. We were a secret fraternity that was gonna drive this black cadet. He's the first black cadet to come to the Carolina Military Institute. It's 1964.
Right.
Mark Breland, the amateur gold medalist boxer, played this part, and we were gonna drive him out. So I'm playing this guy who's a sadistic, racist fuck, who's and Michael Bean's kind of my lieutenant, my ringleader, and I was so amazed by both of these guys' performances. And Rick would he would haze me a lot because I was playing a bad guy. Then finally we became friends. But at first he was a real dick to me. And
Yeah.
I thought, this guy's a dick. He's great in the role, but he's just a dick because he's dicking with me even off camera with his shit. And I don't like to play that game.
Yeah.
There's days when I have to kind of stay in my bubble, and I let people know that, gee, I might be a little weird today and just be off because this thing I've got to do is
You got to stay
I
in
got to
it.
focus on it. And the other days I want to, because I don't want to, I'll get into that in a second because it's something about the two experiences of working. But I came back, I come to find out that Rick and Michael's only formal training had been with this Hollywood teacher named Vincent Chase.
Wow.
And Vince, I come to find, was one of the last of the studio coaches. Back when the studio system would take young talent on, and they would basically put them through their own school.
Wow. So they find a guy that looks good and then
Exactly.
start training him acting.
Exactly.
No shit, huh?
He was at MGM, which they called Metro.
That's a score,
And then
because
he
then you're
was-
going to learn to act on
Yeah.
the studio, and then they got time invested in you. They're going to start putting you in shit.
Exactly. There was something to be said for the studio system. I've had to be on my own pretty much the whole time. I've had good representation. Like my agent Brian Swarstrom and I been together for over 25 years, and just a great influence on my life, and a great colleague and a great friend. But
I mean, you've been working like crazy your whole life.
well, yes and no. You don't. I've had a lot. I've had a weird zigzaggy kind of up and down, rocky kind of road. It doesn't sound like it when you look at it, but there are a lot of pieces in between there were months without work, and God, not knowing whether I wanted to jump out a window or, blow my brains out. But I was so impressed with these two actors. I said, gee, I got to meet this guy. And so they introduced me to Vince. I hit it off with him, and suddenly here was a great mind, a great theorist, a theorist of the art of acting, and very smart, but very much from the Stella Adler school of breaking down the part, really understanding script analysis, figuring out the subtext, the relationship, where are the clues, building a character from the ground up. And I started working with Vince, and all of a sudden, I would work with him for auditions. Suddenly, I was getting in the money circle, not winning the money, but I was getting closer on a lot of things. And
wow.
It just helped me, prime my pump or get my gun hot, whatever the metaphor you want to use. But it just gave me an edge, and we still work to this day, not as much.
Just on the audition stuff?
On the audition stuff, and whenever I have a play. Now, when I did the three movies, Traveler, Vince had a great part in, and Gene Siskel, when Roger Ebert and Gene Siskel reviewed the film, pointed Vince out as a standout.
Wow.
He plays kind of this gypsy
Siskel
boss.
and Ebert, huh? They
He's
just
an
like,
antagonist. So that was kind of great for me to be able to reciprocate all the help he'd given me. We're still very close. He calls me son and stuff, and he's just one of the great guys. But his approach was a much kinder way. Stella was a fierce disciplinarian. And there was something to be said for that. She said, this is a noble pursuit, but this is a quest that you have to give of yourself if you really want to be an artist in the theater. Now, Hollywood's not an artist in the theater; it's a different thing. And I wanted to make films, and I liked the experience of making the films with the other actors and the crew, and that was something I wanted to say when I was first starting out. And unlike movies like Aliens, I was so worried about what I was doing in the film,
of course,
that I wouldn't have the experience of making the film with all these great people.
Yeah.
I was too up my own ass.
Yeah, right.
And so I got to a point where I went, this is fucked. I'm not gonna do this anymore. I'm gonna do the part to the best of my ability. But I am not going to miss this experience with all these great people.
Yeah.
Because that's really where it's at. And you're guided. There are not many, I was talking about this the other day, there are not many places where you're involved with a group of people in a concerted effort. And here are all these crafts and, coming together to make this thing. And it's cool.
It is, man. I did that movie, Hell Ride. And it's one of the highlights of my life because I worship Hopper, and I really was
That
like,
must have been great.
yeah. So
We share the same birthday.
You do?
May 17th.
Wow.
Anyway, go ahead. Yours.
But here I am. I grew up on Apocalypse Now, Easy
Oh, yeah,
Rider,
Jesus.
Colors,
Apocalypse Now.
Rebel Without a Cause.
Oh,
How
How about Giant? He's
Giant,
in
all of it. You know what I mean? Giant is a
How
masterpiece.
about Blue Velvet?
Blue Velvet.
Mommy.
Yeah. Don't you look at me.
Don't do look. Heineken shit. Pabst Blue Ribbon.
Yeah. Heineken. That's for pussies. Pabst Blue Ribbon.
God damn
God
right.
damn it, dude.
Oh, he was great. Yeah, he definitely great.
I remember he was walking across
Oh,
the set,
Dennis Hopper.
like for like
God
a week.
rest
I'm
his
like,
soul.
where's he? When's he gonna get here? And then there he comes walking. And he's got this brown leather on.
Man, you can't land on fractions, man.
Yeah.
The man said he was going to kill me.
What's he gonna be? A kind man?
Was he what would they say? Was he a kind man? I mean, that stuff is just, oh my gosh.
It's unbelievable.
And you got the smokes. And he's just saying, God, that whole rap he gives Martin Sheen when Martin Sheen arrives at Kurt's headquarters up in the jungle. And I mean,
I call him the
that's-
best. I call him the best. Nobody's worked with John Wayne, James Dean, and Marlon Brando.
Wow.
Not only that, but he directs the most iconic biker film ever, Easy Rider.
Yeah.
He does Colors, which
Luke
is like the
Askew's
first
in that.
gang, dealing with that gang stuff. And then he's in the best, like, David Lynch film, Blue Velvet. and
God.
also
Yeah,
that one he
Blue
did, Things to Do When You Die in Denver. This thing is a fucking smoker. All his films crushed, and he reminds me a lot of you. He had amazing taste in art and photos. He was just an iconic human.
He had a great eye
He
for
was
art,
banned from Hollywood, and then comes back and kills it.
Oh, yeah. Oh, God, yeah.
Anyway, my point is, I can't even really, I was horrible on the film or whatever, but I'll never forget being able to work with him, you know what I mean? It's like, holy shit, I felt like Forrest Gump, like, look at me, man. I'm on a film with Dennis Hopper.
Yeah.
What the fuck?
God, that must have been great. I got to watch him work one time. I was doing the art direction for a Pat Benatar video.
Oh, yeah. I wanted to read that. You were in a Pat Benatar video.
I'm in it too, kind of briefly.
Unbelievable.
It was a song called "Shadows of the Night." And
Great song.
I got Judge Reinhold to be in it, and this was right after
Fast
Lords
Times?
of Discipline.
Oh.
we had been roommates in London when we both were in Lords together.
Oh, he was in that too.
Yeah, it was a great summer. Another actor named Dean R. Miller, and the three of us had a great flat in South Kensington, and
Sick.
just parties
Yeah.
every
Yeah,
night.
yeah,
it was
right?
a great
Just
job.
getting loose.
We weren't the leads, so we didn't work every day, so it was the best.
Oh, yeah.
In summer in London it was pretty cool, and getting a bunch of pounds and per diem to just go blow.
Totally.
That was a lot
Just
of fun.
drinking pints and getting blurry.
I was shooting at it's where the Red Studios now they have their studio. It's on Cahuenga, just between Santa Monica and Melrose. There's a
Next to Jones?
It used to be Renmar Studios. It's about 6 sound stages. Anyway, Hopper was shooting with Sam Peckinpah was directing. Him, Rutger Hauer, and Meg Foster. She was this gal. I remember her. She had these really intense blue eyes, and they were making the Osterman Weekend.
Oh, yeah.
Right on the stage next door, and I went, God, Dennis Hopper's working next door with Sam Peckinpah.
Sick.
And Rutger Hauer, who I adored, because God, Blade Runner.
Yeah, come on.
Unbelievable.
Unbelievable.
You better get it up.
Yeah.
I've seen things. Star fighters on fire off the rings of Orion's belt or whatever. But anyway, here are these legendary guys in my mind, and so I snuck on the set and watched a little bit, and then I got thrown out a couple times. But Peckinpah seemed to be he seemed to be raising a lot of hell about everything.
Yeah.
But I didn't actually get to see him. But I just saw Hopper having a cup of coffee, talking to him, and them setting up the lights and stuff. But that was kind of cool.
What I was blown away with, and I'll ask you a little bit about this, was my thing is learning the lines. and memorizing them, I find that weeks later I know him better than during the time. And this fucking guy, at the time, I think he was 72. It was like, 7, 8 years ago. He had long monologues and stuff, and he knew them all perfect. I mean, fucking perfect,
I have to try to get it in deep. I had to try to work on it for days. I write it over and over again. I say it out loud. You have to.
You handwrite it?
Yeah, but the thing is, that doesn't really do it. I find the best work I do, well, especially when I'm working on the series, is I've been working with one of the actors. I'll work in my trailer, so I'd be saying the lines out loud. There's the distance between your brain and your tongue is 1,000 miles.
Yeah.
Even though you know it until you actually are vocalizing it. You really don't know it.
That's like with jokes.
The more you know it, the better. The more you can always. You can always know it better. The better you know the song, the better you can sing the song. So English actors have a much more of a craft in some ways. That's a generalization, but I've never met English actors who weren't super prepared. They rarely ever hold. They give you these things, the sides.
Oh yeah.
And it's the scene you're shooting, and it's kind of a miniaturized version. I have to put on glasses to read these damn things, and
I've always got it in my pocket.
Well,
I'm looking at it during the scene.
But if you'll notice, English actors never hold their side. They never have sides. They've done all of that work before they get there. I read that Anthony Hopkins, he'll read a scene out when he's preparing some out loud 100 times.
Oh wow.
This stuff comes at you fast and furious, especially doing training day where we're shooting a lot, and I've got a character that really is always on a spiel about something, and it's been a lot of fun because he's got repartee and he's quick and he's doesn't have time to dick around, and he's on the kid all the time, the trainee, but that stuff you've got to know it really well. It's kind of I was working with Clark Gregg a couple years ago. I did a little arc on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and I had a good time with him. He's a great guy.
John Bertho on that.
Was John on that? He wasn't on the where I was working on it.
Oh, he wasn't. I thought he was on that.
I don't know, but anyway, Clark was saying, because he has to do a lot of spiels, a lot of things. He kind of described it as the downhill racer. Once you hit going down the slope, once you come out of the gate, you almost can't even think of what the next word is. If you're even stopping to think or hesitating a millisecond, you're going to hit a mogul and your ass over a tea kettle. And then it's going back to the top of the hill to get down, because these speeches have to kind of flow. Because a lot of times on these shows, you're having to spit a lot of expository stuff.
Yeah,
and you can't drop a curtain in there. It needs to. So it's a mind calisthenic for sure, and it's good stuff. Different techniques to do it, and you get better at it as you do it. But yeah, you said Hopper knew his stuff because he had the old training. I mean, that guy, you didn't show up and kind of be rubberized, but he's also someone to me that. It seems like some of the stuff that he did, like we were referring to, like Apocalypse Now and some of that stuff, it seemed almost
ad-libbed,
extraneous. I mean, it felt like he was extrapolating on the moment. Now, when you know the character really well, you can kind of take that character and put him in any situation, and you'll kind of know what to say.
Yeah,
and so that's He was a deep cat, He really was a guy who took his craft very seriously, even though he was also kind of had this reputation of being just a wild man.
Oh yeah, well I mean that's part of a great
like a Hunter Thompson.
Absolutely,
character.
that's part of the great art, right?
Yeah.
That's what you look up to. You go. I mean, there's that famous Mike Douglas or whatever interview. He's coming on to show the second film he makes after Easy Rider, which bombs, and he's there to promote it, and he's just ripping on these two people that are on the couch, and you go, well, this is outlaw. You can watch it on YouTube. He's like, oh, well, you're the problem with Hollywood. You just look at numbers and dollar signs, you know,
Yeah.
and this ain't about that. And the lady's like, what?
Well,
Yeah.
it's a crazy thing, you know,
Yeah.
art versus commerce, and you know, kind of one hand washes the other.
It's like stand up. Am I selling drinks or am I really doing art? You know what I mean? Most of the time, until you get to a level, you're selling drinks.
Yeah, I mean, you know, and it just like there's fast food and there's fine dining.
Yeah.
You know, and but for the most part, just there's fast food we're surrounded by in most places, and what are they making here? A lot of the movie studios, they're making fast food. You know,
Yeah,
When
yeah.
you want a good Cabernet with a nice, fine, you know,
You want Godfather? It's
fine
not going to be
cuisine,
me.
you know, you don't get that as much. You know,
Yeah.
But,
It's funny when it does happen, like Moonlight.
and it comes
you
to
know?
happen. And you know, and I got into this business. I didn't get in the business to be rich.
Yeah.
It was a vocational calling. I mean, you know, the whole fame thing, I don't know, recognition, I don't know. We all kind of, you know, we're all on this planet. We want to kind of strike our name on the rock. Yeah, okay. I got some of that's involved, you know, but really I like the idea of I wanted to be a part of something bigger than me, which I found that I wasn't an athlete ever really. And I love, but I was always jealous that, you know, the guys on the football team, even though, but I was jealous of the camaraderie they had. And I found that in the movies, and I love working. Because I came from the crews and I became an actor from the crew, it's given me a different perspective and a different respect. And it makes me, there's a few of us, Harrison Ford, Robert Redford, there's a lot of us who have worked behind the scenes as well. But,
That gets you to respect the
different
people that are
respect,
working
and I
on
have
it.
a really good time, and I have a great time with the crew, and they see me crash and burn, and because they're my Confederates, and they're not there to judge me, because I've acknowledged them, and most of them know I came from the crew too. It's just the way I handle myself on you know, the way I relate. And it gives me a freedom to be able to completely get naked and completely fuck up and completely screw up and have to do it again and again and again. And again, because nobody's going to beat me up worse than I'm going to beat myself
Right.
up. And that gives me a forum, an atmosphere of work that I can do my thing, you know.
You told me a story a few years back when 3D was really happening. You were thinking of trying to get made Twister 3D, and you had done some research on
Actually,
the biggest
yeah.
Twister ever that lasted like 4
I wasn't
days.
really interested in a 3D thing, because
Right.
that to me, that's just really,
I got you,
at
but
the
you
end of the
wanted to
day,
make-
that's a gimmick. No, what I wanted to do was I always wanted to do a sequel to Twister, because I felt like we left a lot on the table.
But you told me about one that lasted 4 days.
Yeah,
It was like the
the
Jaws
yeah.
of Twisters.
The tri-state tornado of March 18th, 1925 was a tornado of biblical proportions. It still holds all of the records. It was a significant tornado strike. The tornado might be on the ground less than a minute. This thing stayed on the ground, I think, 2.5 or 3 hours.
That's insane.
You know, a significant damage path might be a quarter of a mile. This thing had a damage path of something like over 600 miles.
Wow. And you researched it, right? Like you were going to do the Super Twister.
I went and my buddy Scott Thompson, who played Preacher in Twister, old good friend of mine. We went on a pilgrimage and we tracked the trail of the tri-state from where it started near Livingston, Missouri in the Ozarks to where it ended near Princeton, Indiana.
Wow.
And we went to all the little towns and the historical sites. The most significant was Southern Illinois. See, it went across the Mississippi River from Missouri, cut a damage path of destruction and death across Southern Illinois, across the Wabash River, to just tearing into everything and it killing everything in its path. And it died out in Princeton, Indiana. We went to Murfreesboro in Southern Illinois, and we went to the Historical Society, and we talked to some of the old timers who'd say, you know, if it happened once, and we saw the old headlines, and there was this aerial footage taken by biplanes
Whoa.
by the government just for the damage, and you could see this town. It was a railroad head, and it was a town of about 25,000 people. Only about 750 people were killed in the tri-state, or something like that in that area, and that's still the highest fatality rate of any tornado. And this is back in these was rural times. This is the mid-20s and in the Midwest, and it was pretty rural areas, the Ozarks and shit, Southern Illinois. And this town, the headline said, "In the blink of an eye, Murfreesboro was no more." And there's this big aerial shot, and you've seen this big wide swath, and it looks like, that black and white aerial photography of bombed out cities
like Hiroshima?
Not Hiroshima, more like the European theater. World War I and some of that stuff. And God, and I always thought there was a great vehicle for that, because I always thought we kind of did the Pepsi Light version, and there was still the Coke version to be made.
Yeah.
The classic Coke version could still be made. And because I felt like there is a Jaws thing in there. There's something a little darker. The
whole thing of like, how could you detour it? Maybe some kind of weather thing where you could, change the path or end the tornado, that kind of stuff, right?
I wasn't really thinking in terms of that. I was thinking more that it could be a little more gothic, because some of the stories I read and heard were pretty amazing. Like, there was in Murfreesboro there was a historian there that we got to know, and back in '90 he had taped had put on videotape. It was a bad videotape, but it was still there with the audio, and I have a copy of it somewhere. He made a copy of it for me, and he had gone on the anniversary of the tri-state and found a bunch of survivors who had been children and this one woman told this story. She was a little girl and her brother who died in the tornado. She said, she said they were in the school, and she got out of the school, but she couldn't find her brother, and she found her way back to her house. Her house was gone, but her grandmother was sitting in a rocking chair amongst all this rubble, except she had no head.
Whoa!
And then she talked about she had never seen a grown man cry so hard. And that was when her father found the body of her younger brother.
That's incredible.
And it's an amazing speech, because she tells it in kind of a way that, as actors, or we want to dramatize things, and go, look, we're really feeling this of it. In real life, when people tell tragic stories or stuff like that, many times it has a plaintive kind of a flat delivery. And that gives it an even creepier, because that's the truth. You're hearing the truth.
Yeah, there's no like passion and ups and downs. It's just monotone, like
just saying what happened. And then she had another one. There was another one who, I don't know if this was the same woman, but she talked about they had a canary, and her dad went back to the rubble of the house and found the smashed up bird cage, and it looked like there was a blackbird sitting on its cage. It was the canary, but the canary was completely coal black from the storm.
Whoa!
And it kept saying, "Sweet hour of prayer, sweet hour of prayer."
No,
because they'd been taught to say that.
Really?
Sweet hour of prayer.
Whoa!
The tri-state.
These are all shit for the movie.
That's the kind of stuff, And then as I did research, there was all kinds of great weather phenomena that we didn't explore. One is ball lightning, where a lightning bolt will strike and create these electrical balls that'll float around for a little bit and all of a sudden shoot up and explode.
Wow.
And then there's fish falls where you've got tornadoes going over lakes or rivers, and they suck up turtles and fish and snakes, and they carry them aloft for 20 miles, and then suddenly just rain them down on some unsuspecting town. And I thought that would have been cool. A guy going out to get his newspaper, and it's raining
just snakes
and stuff,
Oh man!
And they're just, and I just thought it'd be cool, because the third act would be obviously I was going to have all these weird things happening, and kind of heralding. They were almost like the court jesters and the court, all the court all the courtesans kind of heralding the return of the king. And, Bill Henriksen being a great tornado historian as well as a great meteorologist, he's now teaching. It's 15, 20 years later. Him and Helen Hunt's character, Joe, they've had a kid, but they're split up again.
Yeah.
And the kid's kind of living between them, and they both live in Norman, Oklahoma. And now Bill teaches at the University of Oklahoma. He teaches meteorology, and you open with some incredible, huge. The only other area besides the continental Midwest, North America, that has a lot of tornadic activity is really India and Pakistan down there where they have the big typhoons. That's the only
yeah.
place there are big tornadoes. And so Helen opens with some big typhoon tornado that she's monitoring in Bangladesh.
So something's
so she's
coming.
out there
Yeah.
doing that, and then you see me, and I'm in a class, and there's a kid in my class who's been kind of dating the daughter. We have a daughter. She's like Helen when she was a kid, and she's sneaking out with this freshman college boy, and they're storm chasing and stuff, and I'm showing footage. I wanted to generate my own, like they'd found in some basement of some, movie palace in the Midwest or in Chicago. They had found old newsreel footage that somebody had actually shot footage of the tri-state.
Oh,
Which
wow.
would be fun to generate this black and white 1920s,
Yeah.
and kind of set it up. And so Bill starts kind of reading about different things that are happening, different weather things, and starts to see a pattern. That kind of similar pattern that led to the tri-state, and nobody will believe him, of course, and it just kind of built it into the thing where the tri-state comes back at the end. And I don't know, it's a funny thing, the idea of tornadoes, and it's there's something anthropomorphic about tornadoes where they'll destroy everything on this side of the street, not even touch a blade of grass on the other
That's
side
crazy,
of the street.
right?
So there's that survivor's guilt that the people who've lost everything across the street and your house is still perfectly nice. There's all kinds of gothic stories. There was one about the tri-state where this one woman was found. She'd been cut in half because she was trying to get into her basement right when the house shifted off its foundation.
Oh,
so
man.
She was literally going into the basement when the thing just boom. And finding a leg on a rooftop with still with a boot still on it.
Yeah.
It's a little darker, but it's
that's the shit, though.
It's kind of a Jaws version of that story, but still it ends with a catharsis and of hope. And they never got anywhere. I got Kathy Kennedy interested in it, and I don't know what the deal if it ever really got in front of Steven Spielberg or. I don't know if it was because he'd have to change his deal, or I just never really. I've never really gotten a chance to have a real audience with Steven, and I've always kind of wanted that. Years ago, I made a film called Frailty, and I got Bill Butler to be the cinematographer through David Blocker, my producer, and Bill Butler shot Jaws.
Wow.
And I remember sending Steven a letter. In the hopes that he would maybe check it out, and because I've always looked to be mentored by these kind of guys, guys like Clint Eastwood or Steven Spielberg, and I have been mentored by guys like Jim Cameron and Sam Raimi and people like that, Walter Hill. But I've always kind of wanted, doing Steven produced Twister, even though he wasn't really around that, but I just wanted to get to know him. I ran into him at the Directors Guild several years ago, and I just made The Greatest Game Ever Played, and Shia LaBeouf was the star, and Shia had just done Indiana Jones with Steven, and we gave it kind of a thing to talk about, Shia, and he said to me, you know what, Paxton, you sure have tenacity. I just couldn't figure out what he meant by that.
No shit.
Yeah,
like that was it. He just left that.
You're tenacious or something like that. Like, I don't know what it was. It was a weird deal, but I've always wanted to get to know him. I felt like God, we kind of are the same animal in terms of the love that we have for film and how we came out here. And I always loved the story of how he just kind of set up shop in Universal.
Yeah.
And ended up directing that great Night Gallery with Joan Crawford.
Unbelievable, right?
And I just, he's such a man after my own heart in terms of being a filmmaker and idealist, and I love his movies. You know,
and Jaws is just an absolute masterpiece.
Schindler's List is one of the great films of the last century. I mean, it just kills me, that movie, and I just never got the chance to really get to know him. I have a lot of heroes who've been my inspirations out here. He's certainly one of them. Clint's another one. Warren Beatty's another. But I never really got to know Jack Nicholson. Huge influence on me in terms of what I try to do and some of the performance-oriented roles I get.
What are some of your favorites that he did? Cuckoo's Nest? Shining?
Last Detail.
Last Detail. Unbelievable.
I mean, you name it. The guy's The Departed. I mean, he's just, whatever he's doing it. He always does it with relish. He knows he's performing, and you know, if you're really enjoying the role you're playing, whether it's tragedy or comedy or whatever the hell it is, then the audience are enjoying it too, because there's something they're a party to it, and they're digging.
What about Schmidt, man? You know,
about Schmidt,
that was crazy because it was like all of a sudden he wasn't doing Jack that we always got.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
He's a consummate actor, and but for me, going back to that idea that these guys have had such huge influences on me and have been mentors to me. Again, the sardonic wit of The Shining or whatever. Your money's no good here, Mr. Torrance. And, having a little trouble with the old sperm bank, but they've been inspiration. They've been mentors to me. Would I have liked to have gotten to know them and been able to talk to them like we're talking right now? God, I'd have done anything for that. And I have other actor friends who've been able to really cultivate a lot of people. But I raised a family outside of town. I moved up, to Ojai years ago, and there's a part of me that I'm a social animal. I would love to have been hanging out more, and I always kind of hope to get to know someone like Steven Spielberg. Well, actually, not someone like Steven Spielberg, but Steven
him.
Spielberg.
That's why I've been lucky with comedy. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
because like some of the biggest guys I'm around, Burr, Maron, like Louis C.K. I get to see him like a lot of these guys every night.
That's great.
And I get to see him work.
But you've been able to have a relationship with these guys.
Some of them, and it's been very, and it's funny because
that's so cool.
I'm 50 and single, and these guys got lives, So I'm like, hey man, can we get some lunch today? Like I need to be around guys like that. I don't think they understand as much as I do. They're so fucking inspiring, and any words they say, I take them in and learn so much.
Yeah. I don't know if it's something, if I wanted acknowledgement or a pat on the ass or whatever, but it's just been cool to be able to. But I also, at the same token, I've been very close to Jim Cameron.
That's awesome.
And God, Jim's been, the most loyal colleague and friend I ever had in Hollywood. If the shit really hits the fan and I needed to make one phone call to somebody who I know would be there and would be able to do something about the situation I was in, it would be Jim Cameron.
That's amazing.
So I can't, I have been able to meet some great people, and I've got to work with some great actors and great filmmakers. And great, art directors and great composers. I've gotten to work with a lot of editors, cinematographers. So I can't really bitch. My only bitching is really when I need to be working, and I spend, like it looks like I work a lot, but I spend a lot of time hustling. I've tried to get a couple of films off the ground for a few years now, and it's a struggle. It really is a struggle.
It is, man. I feel like same comedy and Hollywood in general, there's no relaxing. If you do, the other guys just walk right over you, and then all of a sudden you're like a ghost in the industry, right? It's like,
but you also need the action. We're all kind of sharks out here.
Yeah.
But there's no there. There's no getting any there. When I get there, I'll be I'll have it made. It's a life process. It's like when you get there, you'll be dead.
Yeah.
That's getting there.
Yeah, you're so
you got
right,
there,
right?
You're there.
Yeah, you're there.
And
there.
you're gone.
There's no more chase.
And you're dead.
Yeah.
That's it. You're dead. But
You are so right, Bill.
But
Because you never, each plateau you get to, like I look at you and I go, you're there.
You need, fuck, I'm not there.
I know, but I'm just saying, you know what I mean? In my eyes, and then in your eyes, you look at another guy, he goes, he's there. And then the other guy goes, I'm not there.
Yeah.
You know?
I didn't think I'd do another television series in a lead role.
Yeah.
Because I had a great experience on Big Love. It was a classic show. We did 5 seasons. It was a critical hit. It was we came, we saw, we caught, we did it. But it was a lot of work. It was a full commitment, and it pretty much pulled me out of the whole. I'd been a movie actor. That was by design. Years ago, I had a great agent. My first really good agent that I was able to get through Frank Rodham was Hildy Gottlieb. And she got me out, and she said early on, what kind of career do you want? I said, I want to do features. I wanted to be in features. I want to work in features. I wasn't so interested in television. Television at that time was not.
It was garbage back then.
Well, there was good stuff, but it wasn't what it is today.
Yeah.
Where they're doing just great state-of-the-art, great storytelling, all kinds of, the premium cable shows. I'm
starting like around
watching
Sopranos,
The Young Pope
right
now, which is unbelievable. Great show. The Crown, I just watched, loved it. So my agent, Hildy Gottlieb, said, well, look, if that's what you want, then I'm only going to send you out on features. Pilot season, I'm not sending you out for anything. And you know what? You're gonna starve. You're gonna be without work for a long time. But she said, if you stick with this, in the long run, it'll pay off, and it did. Because for a long time, I really was doing features, and Big Love, I kind of pulled me out of the feature world, but it was like a 5-year feature. I didn't know any other way to approach it. A season of Big Love was just like a 12-hour movie.
Yeah,
and it was shot like a movie. So I got that. So, but the commitment and the work. So when Training Day came along last year,
how's this come along?
What's that?
How's it come along? Like somebody gets the idea, like let's take the movie and make it.
I don't really know what the genesis of it was. I guess Antoine Fuqua. I've been toying with the idea of what have I got that we can, amateurize and franchise and serialize and so and sat down, I guess, and then Jerry Bruckheimer got involved, said, hey, I'd like to be a part of that, and then Warner Brothers said, we'd be interested in that, and then CBS came in and
you got to audition for it?
No, I was offered the role.
No shit.
Yeah, I was offered the role because I what I bring to it is I bring an actor the audience already know.
Absolutely.
And so that way they can put me with a young actor that audiences aren't so familiar with. Justin Cornwell, who's a great partner. He plays my trainee. And then they can kind of break it for audiences when Training Day comes out next week. It's going to be kind of like for them with me. It's like putting on a old pair of slippers and a robe you've had for a long time.
Yeah.
Most everybody out there has grown up. I'm 40 years in this business.
Oh,
now.
yeah, man. I've seen everything you've done. You know what I mean?
And it's a fun character, performance, sardonic.
It's lighter than the movie, you said.
Much lighter than the movie, although it has to have some gravitas for it to kind of to hold it all together. But it's a little more ribald. Like my character's a little, he's quite a character, and so that's big. But I knew getting involved in that. I really was trying to get at this point just be a director. I will let some other guy suit up. I'm great at giving other people direction, and that's what I'd rather be doing. I'd rather be helping the crew and let's get it all together. I really enjoy making films as a director. I had a great experience on Frailty, on Traveler, and on The Greatest Game Ever Played, which I directed for Walt Disney, but. I just couldn't get this project off the ground, and this thing came along, and I thought, I don't know if I'm ready to jump in like that. But I needed some action. I needed to be engaged, and I'm so glad I took the job, even though it was a ton of work. it's got me engaged again. I'm
Yeah.
working with people and we're doing stuff, and they've been really cool on the show. The creator Will Beal and his showrunner Barry Schindel and the writers' room and everybody in the studio and the network. They've been great to me because they've kind of given me agency, and I'm having a chance to put together a part where I'm, I can help the production get through the day because I know how to. A lot of times they'll be setting up a shot, and I'll say, "Come on, I'll grab the director," because we have a different director every 8 days.
Yeah.
I had 13 directors on this thing.
Right.
And I'll say, "Hey, let's jump ahead. Let's go over to the other stage and let's start rehearsing this other scene we got to shoot after lunch." I'll almost be like an AD, and the AD will look at me and go, "Thanks, Bill," because this will put us, because I need to think about it too. It helps me. But then doing all of that, it's also I've been playing a character that is kind of full on, and he's an action guy, and he's an iconoclast. He's thumbing his nose at authority, and he does it his way, and he's kind of a gunslinger, but he's also got a wicked sense of humor, and it's just been a role where I've been able to put a lot of the different elements of my background as an actor, whether it was the heightened kind of comedy of Chet or the straight guy in Twister or more of a character lead, or whatever it was, different styles. I've been able to kind of put it all together with this character of Frank Rourke.
That's badass.
Yeah, I think it's going to be
can't
good.
wait.
So it's premiering next Thursday night, February 2nd. I don't know when you're going to run
It'll
this.
be on Monday.
Oh, perfect.
So perfect.
Yeah, so CBS Thursday
10
night, 10 o'clock, training day. It's so that's kind of why I've been kind of coming out. I don't do a ton of publicity.
I know how you hate this.
I don't really hate it.
Yeah.
This is kind of a fun forum
yeah.
because we've got time to talk. But
It's amazing, though, to finally have you on after all this. I would hit you once a year, and I'd say, "Hey, man, want to do the podcast?" But it was never
and
about
you never hear from me.
No, I'd be like, "Damn it!"
I just
When you called me
poke my
yesterday,
head up and just shoot back down in the hole.
you called me yesterday. I said, "I think it's a pocket dial."
Yeah.
I was like,
I butt called you.
"Oh, I got a butt dial."
Nice.
I know you got to go. I want to ask you two things before you split.
Yeah.
One, you were there, Kennedy assassination.
Yeah, I've told this story a lot. My brother Bob and I were taken down to the Hotel Texas in Fort Worth on the morning of November 22nd, 1963, to see the president, to see John F. Kennedy, and we witnessed his last public speech. Not public speech, his last outdoor speech, because he gave a speech inside at a breakfast banquet held by the Chamber of Commerce and all the dignity Fort Worth kind of, the social set and everybody there. And that was after, but really that was he was killed 4 hours after I'd seen him, and I was 8.5. And yeah, it made a huge impression on me, and particularly my 11-year-old brother, Bob. And it was not only an event that haunted us as children and horrified us as well as the world, but it was something you don't forget. And as I got older, my brother and I both became just obsessed with it.
Me too. That's why I asked you about
I've read more books on that subject than any
You read
other
the Behold the
subject.
Pale Horse?
I've read everything.
That's the last guy that was alive till recently that was in the car when he got shot, and he said the driver did it. You read this book? He was a CIA FBI agent or whatever in the car.
The driver was 54 years old. He was Irish born. I'm spacing on his name. He started to slow the car that came around the hairpin turn in front of the book depository. The first shot went off. Everybody's looking over their right shoulder and up to where Oswald is. His name was, I'll think of his name in a second, but instead of accelerating, he slowed down. Nobody knew what was going on. They thought it was a backfire. Connolly immediately knew because he was a deer hunter. And, it to me, I'm not a conspiracist at all. I mean, when you boil it all down and you read all the accounts and everything, and you find out that Oswald attempted to shoot and pulled the trigger but just missed the guy, General Walker, who was the head of the John Birch Society, and Dallas was the center of the fundamentalist militant right wing universe at that time. It was also the murder capital of the United States.
Oh, wow.
There was a lot of, unchecked, fanaticism being allowed to be in editorials in the paper. And Oswald tried to shoot this guy. He started kind of going to his speeches, kind of a la, Robert De Niro in Taxi Driver. Took a shot at the guy over his backyard fence in his home, but it missed him. Buried the gun nearby. It's the same gun that he used to kill Kennedy. And, when you boil it all down, it really all comes back to a guy, a malcontent with a mail order rifle he bought for $20,
Right.
An opportunity. The big significant moment to me in that story that I was going to do a 10-hour miniseries about it with Tom Hanks and his company, but it just never came again. We had the scripts written and everything. But that moment in the lunchroom at the book depository, where a couple of days before the presidents to arrive, they published in the newspaper the motorcade route from the airport. And that moment when Oswald would read the papers kind of after everybody had read them in the lunchroom, and just him following that motorcade route, and then just that moment where he realizes that the president's motorcade is going to go right below his window there. He had no time to really formulate a plan. He didn't even know how he was going to get out of the building. It's kind of a miracle he even got out of the building. He got in a cab, and it was going into the square, and he jumped on a bus, and he just, the gun didn't have a full clip in it. He didn't go buy ammo then, because there were a lot of things that fell through the cracks. There were a lot of things. I mean, he'd gone into the FBI office and raised hell because this guy, James Hosty, this FBI guy had gone out and interviewed his wife, who was estranged and living with this woman over in, Euless or somewhere over there. And, it's one of those deals, in any catastrophe thing or tragic, calamity, where it's almost like this series of random events kind of take this kind of deadly alignment. And and if any one of these, between A and Z that caused this thing, any one of those that deviated, it zigged and zagged, or in any way, this event would not have happened. It's kind of like the Titanic is one of those examples, and these things come along. But Lee Harvey Oswald all the way. I believed in conspiracies for a long time, and
did you read that thing where they said recently the Titanic, there was a fire down below?
There was always a fire on those ships, because in the coal bins they'd have fires that would never. That probably
happened. Like
but I don't know if I don't think that's what caused it. Hit an iceberg. I mean, that's documented, and that's what tore it apart. It just really just buckled the hell out of it. And these icebergs are like mountains out there.
Yeah.
And an iceberg's like an ice cube in a glass. You're only seeing about 10% of it.
Yeah.
So there must have been a big,
down below.
Oh my God. So, but it's just kind of those things. And, the idea of arguing with people about the conspiracy, I grew very weary of that. And because people are going to believe what they want to believe. If you're interested in the subject at all, I would recommend starting with Death of a President by William Manchester, a book that was exhaustively researched to the point where he had a nervous breakdown doing it. He walked the motorcade route. Amazing man, knew Kennedy. And when the book came out, they kind of tried to squelch it a little bit because he really, I don't know. It was respectful, but it was really thorough.
Yeah.
If you really want to go crazy, pick up Vincent Bugliosi's Reclaiming History. Vincent Bugliosi passed about a year or two ago, and I got to know him a little bit, and that Playtone got the rights to his book for this thing we developed for them that we never got to make. He goes into forensic analysis, and he was a prosecutor, prosecuted Manson, wrote Helter Skelter. But he tried, he takes he said, let's go with the conspiracy theory. Let's try to prove it. And to the point of just ad nauseum where you go, obviously this couldn't have happened. what compounded the whole thing was Ruby shooting Oswald, like,
Right.
silence the stoolie kind of thing.
Yeah.
Well, then who silences the silencer? And it just goes. That was more of a crime of passion.
Yeah?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. But anyway, that's a whole nother kettle of fish. What else you got?
Of course, and then the next one, I remember you told me your great Fiero story that you're still here alive, but you had a Fiero back in the day and you fell asleep on the way home from the set.
That must be somebody else.
Oh, I thought it was you.
No.
Somebody told me the story, and I thought it was you because you lived in Ojai, that they bought a Fiero.
Oh no! I had a terrible, car accident on the 101.
Yeah.
In a Miata.
Oh, Miata, that's what I meant. That's what I meant.
And it was right when I just finished Apollo 13, and I had been in town. I'd had dinner at Jones with Matt Lichtenberg.
Yeah.
And I just called Louise to tell her I'd be home around 10:30. It had rained. It was kind of this time of year. It was probably like February. And I'm driving down the 101. I'm out near, I guess, Topanga. And I know it was, or Shoup, or one of those streets. But all of a sudden, I'm in the middle lane, and I see there's coming on the ramp. There's a car. I see it more in my right peripheral vision, and it's spinning.
Wow.
Onto the freeway. And I see the car in front of me hit it dead on, and now they're both spinning. And I hit the brakes, and it was as if, because of the road was slick, it was as if I had hit the accelerator.
Wow.
But the thing held a perfect attitude like an arrow, and it looked for a moment like both cars there was enough separation as they were spinning that I might just slide right through.
Whoa, that would have been insane, right?
And then at the very last second, they both stalled, and I hit them probably a second after they came to rest. And I swear to God, the airbag blew up immediately, and I thought the car was on fire.
Yeah.
Because they pack them in
Sparks.
They pack them in baby powder.
So they don't rot.
To keep them supple, and that latex from getting cracky, and but I felt like a Tex Avery cartoon when the wolf sees the good-looking girl and his eyeballs shoot out of his head.
Yeah.
And I remember I had enough time to grip the wheel kind of at 10 and 2 and go, oh God, this is it. I knew that I was in about the worst place I could be at that moment. I thought, I'm done. And that airbag's time, but my hand, if you were holding the wheel at 2 o'clock and 10 o'clock, there was only about, I'd say, 5 inches to the windshield from your hand. Not much.
Yeah.
But there was enough force to put my right hand through, tear it off the wheel, which I was gripping probably as hard as I could, and I'm right-handed, and to put it right through the windshield. And it kind of snapped it back, and when I finally realized, and then I realized, okay, I'm alive, but the car's on fire, even though it was full of powder.
Yeah.
It looked like smoke. And then I thought, oh God, what's coming into me? That's where I was vulnerable. If somebody would have hit me from behind, then
Totally.
that'd have been game over, man.
Yeah.
And I got a car, and it looked like there was a tennis ball under my wrist.
Oh.
And they came, and this woman, I don't know what the hell happened, but and I remember going to I didn't even go to I went to a hospital emergency room. I wasn't there long. I was okay. And then I took a cab to Brian Swartstrom's house, my agent, back to Hollywood. And I called Louise, said, I don't want you to be nervous, but I was in a car accident. I'm okay. But I saw the car the next day. I went out to some car lot compound in the valley, and I thought, man, somebody up there likes me.
Wow. Yeah, Miata, it's so small.
Just finishing Apollo 13 and just all this stuff. It was like, uh-oh. Anyway, hey, buddy, this has been great.
I love you, dude. Thank you so much.
I love you.
Yeah, I know.
Thanks, Dean. A real pleasure.
Man, it was awesome,
Yeah,
dude.
cool.
What
Right
a
on.
great day, man.
Yeah,
Great
baby.
day.
It's a beauty.
I love you, and hopefully I'll get in this building and you'll be my neighbor.
I love it.
Right?
Come down. Bring it.
Thank you. All right, guys, there you go. Make sure you watch Training Day on Thursday, 10 p.m. CBS?
CBS.
Day before my birthday, dude.
Right on.
Thanks, guys, for tuning in. See ya.